Hey there, welcome back to another review, this time of the immortal sports drama classic film that will continue to live on and inspire millions of people from many different places, from different countries and different locations for years to come, Rocky. Rocky is a film that pretty much everybody knows about. It's become such an integral part of our culture, of our society. The character himself has become larger than life. It's become a character that has we actually put up a real statue of Rocky in Philadelphia. And so Rocky has become that transcendental of a character. He's without a doubt one of the most familiar and one of the most memorable and one of the most inspirational fictional characters of all time. And for good reason. Because Rocky is a character that all of us can relate to in some way. All of us have had tough times in our lives. All of us had walls that we couldn't quite break through. All of us have had things that held us back. All of us have had odds that were against us. And through Rocky and through the character and through his exploits on film, we can experience the euphoria of beating the odds and doing what most people don't think can't be done and breaking through that wall and going the distance when nobody thought we could or becoming a champion. And that's something that I think will continue to be inspirational for generations and even more generations. It's something that there's a reason why this film is considered timeless. Its message is timeless. Its plot is timeless. Yes, a lot of people consider it cliched, the whole underdog story, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find a film that deals with this plot, which is a plot that's as old as time, but it still manages to bring out emotions that a lot of other films like this just were not able to do. There's something so natural about this film. There's something that's so free-flowing about Rocky and about the other films in the franchise that any of these other movies that have tried to emulate it just can't seem to do it. They come close, some of them, but they never really seem to give you that same feeling, like I was saying, of euphoria, of just make you smile, they make you cry, they make you laugh. These films really get you emotionally invested in them because of the characters and how well they're written and the performances and the fact that it's just a story that you, in a lot of ways, people can relate to, and in the same way, you have a protagonist that you root for. You feel bad for. You want him to get out of the slums of Philadelphia. You want him to get out of Skid Row and make something out of his life. And it's something that will always be captivating. And in large part due to Stallone's performance. Um, he's the glue that really keeps this film together. It definitely is his film. And I do agree with a lot of critics. It's a classic film. It's a classic. It's a movie that I really, really enjoy. I really like Rocky. It's not my favorite film in the franchise, but that being said, I still really, really like this film, and I can see why people love it, and I can see why people think that it is the best in the franchise. But for me personally, there's one thing that I just don't think is up to par compared to the other films in the franchise that holds it back just a little bit. And I'll get to that soon enough. But that doesn't mean that I don't really like this film because I do. I really do. It's one of the few films of this type that's more of a love story and drama first and boxing film or sports action elements third, really. That's really it's a distant third. The boxing is a distant third in this movie. As the franchise goes on, the boxing gets brought more and more to the forefront. But in Rocky, it's more of a drama. It's about Rocky Balboa, this down on his luck, punch drunk boxer who's breaking, thumbs and being a loan shark for money and trying to make ends meet. And he has a crush on this girl who works at a pet shop called Adrian. And she's doing the same, trying to make ends meet in a tough world and in a tough place to live in. And she's shy, but he sees the beauty in her and he brings it out in her. And they form a relationship that is sweet and charming. And that's the main core of the film to me, is the love story between Rocky and Adrian. That's how the film ends. And with Rocky's going, Adrian! That's the whole thing. I mean, and then the film ends with him saying, I love you. And it's just like, I love you too, Rocky. And it's a great love story. Great performances by the two actors. I mean, Sylvester Stallone and Talia Shire. That's what brings these characters to life. But at the same time, they're so well written that it just, you know, it, even as if you just read it as just a story, it would still be as powerful as it is on film. But the performances, though, really do bring even more impact to the story. Because without them, then, yeah, it would still be powerful, but it wouldn't be as powerful. Now, the film is directed by John G. Avildsen, and it's written by Sylvester Stallone. And this is a screenplay that he fought very, very hard to not only get produced and get made, but he fought very, very hard for the film to get made. And at the same time, he fought very hard for him to be the star. And the behind-the-scenes story of Rocky's production, especially its pre-production, has a direct parallel to this film itself. Sylvester Stallone is Rocky. He's a real-life Rocky Balboa. There's a reason why he wanted to play the role. There's a reason why he wrote the role for himself. There's a reason why he didn't want anyone else to play the role. Because originally the studio, United Artists, they wanted to buy the screenplay, but they didn't want Stallone to be the star. They wanted Ryan O'Neal, or Burt Reynolds, or James Caan. They wanted anybody but Stallone because he was a nobody at the time in Hollywood. And it's thanks to his early performance in a film called Lords of Flatbush that enabled the studio to be like, okay, all right, we'll let you be the lead, but you're not going to get as much money for the screenplay as we were going to give you. Because originally they were going to give him like an unheard of amount of money. Like more money than he'd ever seen in his life. Like $200,000, $300,000. Which is an insane amount of money. When you think about it, especially in 1975. But Stallone turned it down. He took a huge risk because he fought for something that he believed in. He believed in him. He believed in himself as an actor. He wanted to be an actor in Hollywood, and he believed in this project, and he believed in himself, and he believed in Rocky, and he knew that he could bring out the best performance as Rocky. And he knew that he was the perfect actor to play this character. Because in a lot of ways, it wasn't really acting. Drinking raw eggs, Stallone did that. The dog that's in this film, Bupkis, it was his dog that he did have to sell in order to make ends meet, in order to pay the rent. And then once he got the little bit of money that he got back from the screenplay getting sold, he ended up buying his dog back. See, these are real life stories from Stallone's life. He incorporated them into the film. Now, the other stuff like punching the meat or running up the steps, those were taken a lot of ways from different sources. For example, the punching the meat and doing that kind of stuff and running up the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, that's good stuff that Joe Frazier did, but he was uncredited for. The whole aspect of the underdog going 15 rounds with the champion, that was inspired by the Muhammad Ali-Chuck Wepner fight, where Chuck Wepner went 15 rounds with Ali and nobody thought he could. And in fact, it was so inspired from it that Chuck Wepner actually sued Stallone, and he got an undisclosed amount of money later because Stallone just wanted to smooth things over with Wepner. Either way, Stallone took inspiration from these other characters and from these other boxers. Rocky Marciano was one of them. There was also a story. There was actually a book which is an autobiography of Rocky Graziano called Somebody Up There Likes Me. And there was also a movie the same name. So there were characteristics that Stallone might have, borrowed from uh, that book and from from that character in order to and brought them to Rocky. But Stallone still created this character. It was an amalgam of these other personalities, but I still think it was a very unique character in its own right. And it was a character that is still continuing to stand the test of time for a good reason. Regardless if he took inspiration from these other characters or not, these other people or not, it's still a character that is still timeless, is still a great character. And so yeah, United Artists, they decided, okay, all right, we'll pay you less money, but only because Irwin Winkler and Robert Chartoff's contract with the studio enables them to greenlight a project if the budget was kept low enough, and Stallone knew this. So that's the main reason why he took this risk. He said, no, I'm going to be Rocky or there's no sale. I'm not selling the screenplay. And so then the producers then collateralized any possible losses with their big budget entry New York, New York, which ironically was a box office bomb, or it didn't make as much as they thought it was, but Rocky was such a huge surprise success that it covered those losses. And then the film's production budget of Rocky ended up being about $1,075,000, with a further $100,000 spent on producers' fees and a $4.2 million budget for advertising. And Chartoff and Winkler were enthusiastic about the script and the idea of Stallone playing the lead character, but they were hesitant about having an unknown headline the film. And that's what United Artists had a problem with, too. They wanted to cast Robert Redford, Ryan O'Neal, Burt Reynolds, James Caan, which is just, no, absolutely, totally wrong for the part. Robert Redford is Rocky? James Caan, maybe, but no. I mean, you can't even think of anybody else now as Rocky, as this iconic character other than Sylvester Stallone. Because there wasn't any other actor that would have played this character as well as Stallone did. This was a role that was tailor-made for Sylvester Stallone and for him alone. Ryan O'Neal, Burt Reynolds, that would have been awful. Probably would have never even became a franchise if that was the case. And then it would have been a more bigger budgeted, slick, film that would not have the gritty Skid Row atmosphere that this film has that makes it stand out from a lot of those other type of movies. So the producers also had trouble casting other major characters in the story, with Apollo Creed and Adrian cast unusually late by production standards, both ultimately cast on the same day. Real-life boxer Ken Norton was originally sought for the role of Apollo Creed, but he pulled out and the role was ultimately given to Carl Weathers, who was a relative unknown at the time. And Carl Weathers was, I believe he was a football player. He was a former football player. And Norton had 3 fights with Muhammad Ali, upon whom Creed was loosely based upon. According to the Rocky scrapbook, Kerry Snodgrass was originally chosen to play Adrian, but a money dispute forced the producers to look elsewhere. Susan Sarandon auditioned for the role, was ultimately deemed too pretty for the character, and after Talia Shire's ensuing audition, Chartoff and Winkler, along with Avildsen, insisted that she play the part, which is perfect casting. Talia Shire is phenomenal in this film. I don't think she's an ugly woman either. I think she's a beautiful woman. She was just able to play that shy part. She was able to play that part of a sheltered woman who's hiding her beauty because she doesn't have any self-esteem part really well. Her and Stallone were just a perfect couple. The chemistry was just phenomenal in the film. You also have Burt Young, who plays Paulie, does a good job playing Rocky's friend, who's also a drunk. He added a lot of grit to the film. Carl Weathers plays Apollo Creed. I thought he did a good job. They wisely didn't give him that much screen time since he was a first-time actor, one of his first big role. But what he was given, he did a good job with it. Burgess Meredith was, come on, he played Mickey Goldmill. Ultimately became Rocky's trainer. Very memorable character. Burgess Meredith, I think is my favorite performance of his of his entire career is as this character, Mickey. Thayer David plays Miles Juergens, who plays this fight promoter, who's pseudo-fiably slimy, and it was a really good casting choice because he definitely did encapsulate everything about fight promoter. Everything about a fight promoter that you could think of. He was a perfect casting choice. Joe Spinell, Maniac himself, was Tony Gazzo, Rocky's employer, who was also Lone Shark. Tony Burton played Duke. He was Apollo Creed's manager and trainer and his friend, a role that became more prominent in later films. He wasn't even called Duke in this movie. He didn't even get an actual name until Rocky II. Um, Joe Frazier himself made an appearance in the movie. Um, and like I was saying earlier, some of the plot's more memorable moments, Rocky punching the meat, Rocky run up the steps of Philadelphia Museum of Art, were all part of Joe Frazier's training regimen, and they're taken from the real life exploits of him, which he received no credit, which at the same time is kind of lame. But I mean, there at least he's getting acknowledged for that now. But it's one of those things that it doesn't bother me that much. Um, the film also features music by Bill Conti is an iconic score. The film would not be the same without Bill Conti's score. The score itself is every bit as iconic as any other sequence in this movie. I mean, who doesn't know the Rocky theme, Gonna Fly Now? I mean, that gets me going every time. If I need a pick me up, if I need inspiration, if I need some perfect workout music, if I need some music to get me motivated, there's no other better choice I can think of other than Bill Conti's Rocky theme, Gonna Fly Now. I mean, it's such an excellent piece of music. But not only that score, that piece of music in the score is not only it's not the only good thing about the score. I mean, there's other parts, the little slower bits of music, the that really encapsulate and capture the heart of the film, that really just bring out a lot of good emotions as well. The little music that plays, when you have sequences with Adrian and Rocky, um, that's also really memorable and really well done as well. The cinematography of James Crabb is well done for a low budget. The editing by Richard Halsey and Scott Conrad is also effective. Um, the movie, as we all know, was a huge hit. $1.1 million budget estimated, $225 million gross. Doesn't look like much, I guess, nowadays, but even nowadays it still looks like a lot of money. Think about it, in 1976 dollars. I mean, adjusted to an inflation, and that's an enormous hit. And it was released at the perfect time. This is a time when, things are getting kind of tough for people in the 70s, and cinema was also starting to reflect that. Cinema was reflecting how rough and grimy and how ugly society was becoming in the 70s, and you had these ugly avant-garde, just depressing movies that were just coming out like clockwork in theaters. And it was a film like Rocky really stood out because it was one part love story, another part sports drama, underdog story, one in a million, shots at the title, and going against all the odds, and going the distance when nobody thought he could. And that was something that really appealed to people back in 1976 and still appeals to people nowadays. That's something that will always appeal to people. Because like I was saying earlier, everybody can enjoy that in some aspect. I mean, everybody's wanted to go the distance or to win in life and to beat all the odds that were put against them. So it's a way for us to live vicariously. Audiences live vicariously through this character, through Rocky. That's what makes him so lovable and makes him character so memorable. That's what made this film a huge hit. That's what made the sequels a huge hit. That's made the franchise a huge hit for the most part. Is because people can really they really want to live vicariously through this character. There's a need to do that. And it was very prevalent in 1976 because a lot of these renegade filmmakers, a lot of these films were just very depressing and dark and bleak, and people wanted a simple, just straightforward underdog story with a good, sweet love story. And that's what they got with Rocky. Bless me. But yeah. So, film was a huge hit. Even critics liked it. Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars. He said that Stallone reminded him of a young Marlon Brando. People were just really captivated by the film. The film won an Oscar. I believe, yeah, the film won an Oscar. It won Best Picture. It won the Oscar for Best Picture. It won the Oscar for Best Director. It won the Oscar for Best Film Editing. Stallone was nominated for Best Actor. Talia Shire was nominated for Best Actress. Stallone was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. Burgess Meredith was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Burt Young was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Best Music, it was nominated. Gonna Fly Now by Bill Conti was nominated. I don't know why it didn't win. What score in 1976 was better than Bill Conti's music? Gonna Fly Now from Rocky. Best Sound Mixing was nominated. The Directors Guild of America awarded Rocky its annual award for Best Film of the Year in 1976. And in 2006, Sylvester Stallone's original screenplay for Rocky was selected for the Writers Guild of America Award as the 78th best screenplay of all time. So, yeah, somebody did a sports film top 10, and Rocky was acknowledged, it was AFI, and Rocky was acknowledged as the second best film in the sports drama, which I highly disagree, because it was second best after Raging Bull. Which Raging Bull to me, well crafted film, well acted movie, but Rocky's a better film. Rocky's a movie you can watch more. Rocky is a better protagonist. Rocky doesn't feature a film about an asshole boxer who beats his wife and is an alcoholic. And I understand what they're doing. They're trying to show, oh, the opposite. But there's a reason why they don't make very many films with protagonists who are as miserable and as despicable as Jake LaMotta is in Raging Bull. So I don't really understand why Raging Bull is considered the best sports movie of all time, considered the AFI. Because it's not, it has one good boxing sequence, and the rest of it's just a bunch of wife beating, Robert De Niro being an alcoholic, and it's a good performance, but the guy's an asshole in the beginning when he's young, and he's an asshole when he's older too. He never changes. He's just the same asshole. There's no character arc. And to me, that's not a good film. Anybody can do that. Anybody can make a film where there's no arc. But that's just me personally. If people love that movie, that's fine. I've never been a big fan of Raging Bull. I think Rocky is a 10 times better film than Raging Bull is. So, of course, Rocky has had all of his accolades, and it definitely deserves them. Absolutely. It's a great film. The plot is very simple. That's one of the things about it that I think people appreciated back then and still do now. I mean, features Rocky Balboa, played with Sylvester Stallone. He's a hard-living but failing prize fighter from an Italian neighborhood of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The film opens up with a fight between him and Spider Rico. He wins, but it's just a very, it's really not much of a win because he only gets like $40 for it, and the loser gets like 20, and he wins the fight, but he ends up still losing his locker to this other boxer, and it's just one of those things where his life doesn't seem to get any better just because he's a fighter. He fights, but that doesn't seem to make much of a difference. Because he still works as an enforcer for loan shark Anthony Gazzo and is regarded by many of his neighbors as a bum. And his big break happens, though, when the world heavyweight champion Apollo Creed announces plans to hold a match in Philadelphia during the upcoming United States bicentennial. He does this because his original opponent that he had in mind, he broke his hand, so he needs to find a replacement for this bout, and he decides to give an unknown a shot at the title. And he wants to find somebody who has the title that is catchy and he sees Italian Stallion, which is Rocky's, boxing name, the Italian Stallion. And so he decides he wants to get him. He's from Philadelphia. The fight's going to be in Philadelphia. Let's give a local boy a shot at the title. And he thinks he's a chump. He thinks he's going to beat him in 3 rounds. It's going to be no problem. I even like this line where Apollo is talking about, Apollo Creed versus the Italian Stallion. Sounds like a damn monster movie. I did enjoy that part. So there are no other replacements that he can get. So he decides to give a local contender a chance to face him. He decides that Rocky will be an easy challenge. He's a chump. He can knock him out in 3 rounds. He likes his name. So Rocky then meets with promoter Miles Juergens and agrees to the match. After several weeks of training, using whatever he can find, including meat carcasses as punching bags in meat freezers, Rocky accepts an offer of assistance from Mickey Goldmill, played by Burgess Meredith, who's a respected trainer, always criticized Rocky for wasting his potential because he thought he had a lot of talent. He had a lot of hope. And this is just an example, a little bit of the reason why Mickey didn't really help Rocky right away. Here's Rocky talking to Mickey. I've been coming here for 6 years, and for 6 years you've been sticking it to me. I want to know how come. You don't want to know. I want to know how come. You want to know? I want to know now. Okay, I'm going to tell you. You have the talent to become a good fighter, but instead of that you become a leg breaker. Some cheap second-rate loan shark. It's a living. It's a waste of life. So, Mickey thinks he's wasting his life because he's a loan shark. But he has to make ends meet somehow. He has to pay his rent somehow. You look at Rocky, you feel bad for him. He break people's thumbs. There's a scene earlier in the film where he tries to, he's going to break this guy's thumb, but he doesn't do it because he feels too bad. He's not that type of guy. He's doing this kind of stuff, but he doesn't really want to hurt people. And this upsets his boss, Gazzo, who comes after him, and he's like, how come you didn't break the guy's thumb like I told you? Well, how did you know that I didn't? You don't think I hear things? Did I give you a job this morning, didn't I, huh? Yeah. So why didn't you break his thumb like I told you? When you don't do what I tell you to do, you make me look bad, Rock. Well, I figured if I break the guy's thumb, he gets laid off, right? And then he can't make... Well, don't figure. Let me do the figuring, okay, Rock? From here on in, let me do the figuring, you know? These guys think we're running some kind of charity or something, that they can get off light. From here on in, you do what I tell you to do. Because it's bad for my reputation. You understand? You got it, Rock? I got it. Good. Now tomorrow you collect $400 from Del Rio. And if I tell you to break a guy's nose or thumb as a late payment notice, you do it. Hey, how do you spell Del Rio? Look it up in the dictionary, Rock. What's a dictionary? Hey, come on. I won't let it happen no more about the thumb, you know? And then his bodyguard, who's a freaking asshole, who's just always shitting on Rocky. Earlier he called him, he said, hey, Rock, you get the license plate and the number that ran over your face? And so then he continues, and he says to Rocky as he drives off with Gazzo, he said, hey, so long, meatbag. And then Rocky gets pissed, and I love this moment where he's just like, I should have broke your thumb. So definitely you feel for Rocky. He's got to do this shitty job, the loan shark thing, to make ends meet. But I did like the fact that Gazzo was not as much of an asshole as he could have been. He actually really seems to appreciate Rocky. He gives him a hand. He gives him some money so he can go have a good date with Adrian on Thanksgiving. He helps him out with some money for the fight, for getting ready for the fight, for trainers and stuff like that. Gazzo is, he's not necessarily, I guess, morally the best guy, but he seems like he at least has a heart. He's not heartless, and I like that aspect of the film. They could have easily had that character be just as much of an asshole as his bodyguard, but they didn't really do that. I mean, he has some moments, where he's upset, but understandably because he's running a business, and, But at the same time, it was just an interesting approach. They could have easily had him just be a total prick, and they didn't go that route. So Mickey thinks he's a tomato, which is he actually calls Rocky a tomato, which I did like that. He's like, you know what you are? No, what? Tomato. A tomato? Yeah, yeah. I'm running a business here, not a goddamn soup kitchen. Mickey is so awesome. He's so awesome. And so Mickey agrees that he decides he wants to help Rocky because Rocky's got this chance at the title, something that not very many boxers get. This is a once in a lifetime chance, and he's getting older, and he never had a manager, and so he wants to in his career. So he wants to give his knowledge to Rocky, but Rocky isn't really open to this because Rocky's pissed off and upset and bitter because he asked Mickey for help before, but Mickey never really helped him because he didn't have a title shot. So he's really upset at that, and I'm sort of upset that Mickey let some other guy take his locker that he had for 6 years and just basically threw him out. And now he's gonna come back and he's gonna be like, I want to help you, I want to train you. And if you look at it from Rocky's perspective, that would be kind of aggravating. All these years you did nothing, and here you are, you're coming up to me, and you're wanting to help me. It's just because I have a title shot. And Stallone's performance in the scene is actually really good. And I'll see if I can do this justice here. I'd show clips, but I'm going to get copyright claims, so that's why I do this instead. Took you long enough to get here. Took you 10 years to get to my house. Huh? What's the matter? You don't like my house? Does my house stink? That's right. It stinks! I didn't have no favors from you. Don't slow around me. Talk about your prime. What about my prime, Nick? At least you had a prime. I didn't have no prime. I didn't have nothing. Legs are going. Everything is going. Nobody's getting no nothing. Guy comes up, offers me a fight. Big deal. Want to fight the fight? Yeah, I'll fight the big fight. I wouldn't want to fight. You know what's going to happen to me? I'm going to get that! I'm going to get that! You want to be ringside to see it? Do you? You want to help me out? Huh? You want to see me get my face kicked in? Legs ain't working. Nothing's working. But they go on. Fight the champ. Yeah, I'll fight him. Come get my face kicked in. And you come around here. And you want to move in here with me? Come on in. It's a nice house. Real nice. Come on in and move. It stinks. This whole place stinks. You want to help me out? Well, help me out. Come on, help me out. I'm standing here. And so Rocky, though, is doing that. And while he's yelling, Mickey's already he's already out the door. And I really love the way that this sequence is shot because all it is just, it's silent. It's completely silent. All you hear is Bill Conti's score, which is phenomenal, by the way. It carries all the emotion of the scene. And Rocky, you just see Rocky come out the door and then run after Mickey. You don't hear any dialogue. You just see him run after Mickey. And it's from a shot that's far away too. It's not an up close shot. It's zoomed out. And then Rocky goes up to Mickey, talks to him, apologizes, shakes his hand. They got a deal. And Mickey starts training Rocky. And you get the training sequences. The first time you see the training montages, and it's awesome. And you hear "Gonna Fly Now," and I love too how earlier in the film they showed Rocky training on his own, and they showed him running up the steps. But the first time he's just out of shape, and he barely gets up there. And then, like when he trains, and he gets the confidence, and Mickey helps him out, and then he's able to run up the steps. And of course, that iconic moment where he's going up like this. I mean, there's t-shirt. I'm wearing my t-shirt has that scene. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt that has that scene. I mean, this is a scene that's so iconic that it's on t-shirts. It's on the movie poster. It's such an iconic sequence, and for a reason. It just personifies Rocky's advancement, his evolution as a boxer and as a fighter and as a person. And he's winning. He's made ultimate progress. I mean, that's something that everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to run up the Philadelphia steps at at the museum at Philadelphia Museum of Art, and do that pose and just raise their arms high in the air like Rocky did. And at the same time, while he's training with Mickey, he's beginning a relationship with Adrian, who's a clerk at the local pet store. He gradually gains her trust. She's very shy, so so they don't fall in love right away. But this ultimately culminates in a kiss, and then Polly, who's an alcoholic, becomes jealous of Rocky's success. There's a scene on the holidays where he just flips out with a baseball bat, just smashing shit. And it's a nice contrast to what you're normally used to seeing in holiday sequences, like Christmas sequences in films. And here it is, Paul, just like, just smashing shit with a baseball bat. You're like, that probably is how it is for some people, on the holidays. Just because it's Christmas doesn't mean the drama ends. And I like the sequence where Talia Shire, she stands up for herself finally, and to her brother. It's like, I don't owe you nothing, Polly. And so then they just become more and more close to each other, and the relationship really gets strong, and it's something that you really do relate to, especially if you've had, if you go on your first date, you're always kind of shy, you don't know what to say, and it's really sweet. It's one of the few romances in film that I really, really do like and I really do enjoy. And it's the one thing that stands out to me more than a lot of the other boxing stuff in this movie. Out of all of the Rocky films in the franchise, the love story between Rocky and Adrian is what sticks out the most for me, personally, especially in this movie. So then on New Year's Day, the boxing match begins. Creed makes a dramatic entrance dressed as George Washington, and then his Uncle Sam. He's taking advantage of his overconfidence. Rocky knocks him down in the first round, which is a great moment. And that's one of the few moments out of the fight that I remember. And this is where I get into the one thing about this film that I don't really think is on par with the rest of the movie. It's the fight itself. I think it's pretty underwhelming. It's all this build up, and it's a fight where we don't even see the entire fight, and it's not very well choreographed. It looks clunky. You can tell that the punches aren't really connecting. It doesn't have a big size and scope to it. I know it's a low budget, but it feels like it's shot in somebody's basement. It feels like it doesn't even feel like this big super fight. It doesn't have that feeling. And maybe that was the point, because the whole point of the film was about the love story. It wasn't really about the boxing. That's kind of how the film was advertised, though. So when you have the boxing match being the most thing about the movie, that's kind of a letdown in some ways. But I know I'm pretty much alone on that, probably. But for me personally, I thought the fights got 10 times better as the series went on. And I've never been the guy who's been like, oh, well, the fight's more realistic in this, so the other fights are, I'm not. Because for one, Rocky's a fantasy. Rocky's a working man's fantasy. Some down on his luck worker gets a shot of a lifetime and gets out of the slums and makes the best out of his life. That's something that is a fantasy for every working man or every working woman. It's something that everybody can relate to, something that everybody wants to do. Fantasy isn't just swords and sorcery or dragons and wizards. Fantasy is make-believe. Fantasy can be anything, and that's just made up. And I really think Rocky is not realistic anyway. Think about it. Think about this story. A punch-drunk, washed-up boxer with a heart of gold is going to go 15 rounds with a world champion in his prime. It's not very likely. It's very highly unlikely. And only in our dreams, and only in our movies, and only in the cinema can we see something like this. So I never really felt that this film was realistic in the first place. It in itself, it's a movie. It's a work of fiction. So, I was never one of those guys who, as the franchise went on, I was like, oh, it's just getting over the top and it's not realistic anymore. Because I never thought the franchise was realistic to begin with. But I still thought the boxing match at the end of this movie could have been better. It's just, other than Rocky knocking him down, and other than the final last few punches that are thrown in the last round when Rocky's breaking Apollo's ribs, it just doesn't really register for me. The punches, it doesn't pack as much of a punch, especially in terms of getting my adrenaline flowing or any of that, or getting my pulse going as much as the other fights in the franchise do. And I remember him knocking him down in the first round, and then I remember a lot of the lines of dialogue. Of course, the scene where it's like, I can't see out of my eye, I can't see out of my eye. Cut me, Mick. Cut me, Mick. Do it. Cut me, Mick. Stop this fight and I'll kill you. That kind of stuff. I remember that more than I actually remember the fight itself. So the fight goes to full 15 rounds. Both fighters sustaining injuries. Rocky suffers his first broken nose. And Kreese sustains brutal blows to the ribs, which causes him to bleed on the inside. The match progresses. Kreese's superior skills countered by Rocky's apparently unlimited ability to absorb impact and absorb hits, and his determination and his refusal to be knocked out. And as the final round bell sounds, both fighters locked in each other's arms, and they promise to each other that there will be no rematch. It's like, there ain't gonna be no rematch. I don't want none. And then after the fight, multiple layers of drama are played out. The sportscasters and audience go wild. Jurgens announced over the web speed the match is the greatest exhibition of guts and stamina in the history of the ring. And Rocky doesn't care about any of this. He just cares about Adrian because he loves her. And that's where you have the infamous scene where a lot of people just remember this scene from the movie. Just Rocky going, Adrian! Get those cameras. I've had enough faith. I have had enough things in my face tonight. Get out of the way. Adrian! A lot of people remember that. And then Adrian goes to the crowd, loses her hat, and then gets in the ring with Rocky. They say they love each other, and then the camera zooms in Bo Conti's music, and I literally tear up and smile every time. It's such a heartwarming ending to this movie. It's a great ending. I remember that more than the actual fight. So that's the plot. That's some of my thoughts on the plot and the sequences in the film. Some interesting sort of stuff about the movie. Certain elements of the story were altered during filming. The original script had a very dark tone. Mickey was portrayed as a racist. The script ended with Rocky throwing the fight after realizing he did not want to become a part of the professional boxing world at all. I'm glad they didn't go with that, because that movie would have been awful. That would have been exactly what the audiences in 1976 didn't want to see. They don't want to see any more of that. They've had enough of that kind of film. They want to see something else that isn't like that. The film was shot in Philadelphia, with a few scenes being shot in Los Angeles. The Steadicam, which was a relatively new invention by Garrett Brown, was used to accomplish the smooth photography while running alongside Rocky during the training sequences, which was fantastic, used really, really well. It was also used for some of the shots in the fight scenes. It can be seen at ringside during some wide shots of the final fight. Rocky is often erroneously cited as the first film to use the Steadicam, although it was actually the third, after Bound for Glory and Marathon Man. I'm glad they used the Steadicam, because the Steadicam was really well used in this film. It's something that we take for granted. Nowadays, we look at the Steadicam and something like that, we're like, oh, it's something that, they always had, but they really didn't. It was a relatively new thing when this film came out. But that being said, the final fight, it just doesn't have that, it doesn't have a big size and scope. It feels very small. And I don't know if it's just the low budget or the way that it was directed. It just doesn't feel very big. In comparison to especially Rocky 2. Rocky 2's fight rematch, to me personally, it just blows the fight at the end of this movie out of the water. It knocks it out, and I don't think it's even a close contest, but that's just me personally. During the fight, during the filming during the fight, Stallone and Weathers suffered injuries. Stallone suffered bruised ribs and Weathers suffered a damaged nose. The opposite injuries of what the characters actually had. The first date between Rocky and Adrian, when Rocky bribes a janitor to allow them to skate in closing hours, was shot because it was only shot that way because of budgetary reasons. The scene was originally scheduled to be shot in an ice skating rink during regular business hours, but the producers decided that they couldn't have hired the hundreds of extras that would have been necessary for that scene. I'm glad it wasn't like that. This is an instance where the low budget actually helped the film because it made it stand out. I'm just the poster scene above the ring before Rocky fights Apollo Creed. I don't know what's going on. Before Rocky fights Apollo Creed shows Rocky wearing red shorts with a white stripe, when he actually wears white shorts with a red stripe. When Rocky points this out, he is told that it doesn't really matter, does it? And according to Avildsen's DVD commentary, it was an actual mistake made by the props department that they could not afford to rectify, so Stallone wrote the brief scene to ensure the audience wouldn't see it as a goof. And that sequence when Rocky has that great moment before he takes the fight, before he goes in for the fight, when he's saying, I can't do it. And they were just like, what? I can't beat him. Paulo? Yeah. I've been out there walking around thinking, who am I kidding? I ain't even in this guy's league. What are we gonna do? I don't know. You work so hard. Yeah, that don't matter, because there's nobody before. Don't say that. Come on, Adrian, it's true. I was nobody. That don't matter either, Because I was thinking, it really don't matter if I lose this fight. It really don't matter if this guy opens my head either, because all I want to do is go the distance. Nobody's ever gone the distance with Creed. And if I can go that distance, you see, and that bell rings, and I'm still standing, I'm going to know for the first time in my life that I weren't just another bum from the neighborhood. And that speech by Rocky was actually something that Stallone fought for and added to the film, even though the director was like, we don't really need it, but Stallone fought for it. And for good reason. That's, my opinion, probably the most memorable speech out of the entire movie. So, that's pretty much Rocky. It's an excellent movie. The performances really stand out, especially from Sylvester Stallone and Talia Shire. Rocky's a great character. He's sort of an idiot savant. He's not really the smartest guy, but he has great street smarts, and he's got a great personality, and he's got a really big heart. And it's really nice to see him try to help other people around the neighborhood, like Little Marie, and is a very likable character, despite the fact that he's doing stuff like working for a loan shark. But the film did it in such a way that you were able to accept that and still appreciate this character and still like him. Talia Shire did a great job playing this shy girl who ultimately gets more and more confidence because Rocky has confidence in her, and they made such a great couple. Those two were the heart of this film. They were the heart and soul of this movie. They were the core of Rocky, was Rocky and Adrian. And without that, the film would not be nearly as powerful, wouldn't work nearly as well. Apollo Creed, really well played by Carl Weathers. He was a physical presence, but his performance is also good enough, even though it was limited in terms of his screen time, but it was good enough that it wasn't, it was still, there was still believability there, and it wasn't something that felt like, oh, okay, it was just acting, or it wasn't bad acting. So that was a good thing. It could have easily been something where he's just a physical presence, but he can't act, but that's not the case with Carl Weathers. Good supporting cast as well. Joe Spinell, Burt Young, Mickey, Burgess Meredith, and of course Bill Conti's score, which is every bit as iconic and wonderful as the film itself. And good direction by John G. Avildsen, good editing, and good cinematography. Yeah, I love the movie. It's a knockout. It's a great film. Only problem I have with it is the end fight. That's it. I just think it could have been a lot better. But that's just me personally. Anyway, if I was going to rate Rocky out of 5 stars, I would give it 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Not 4, that's too low. 4.5 out of 5, just because of the end fight. Thought it could have been a little bit better, a little bit bigger, a little bit more to it. But other than that, it's a great film with a great story, great characters, and yeah, it's a film that it's a classic. It's a classic for a reason. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later. See ya.